Hey everyone, this is my Wrangler TJ and it's time to replace the radiator again. I did this once before. This one was a champ. It came with one of those factory plastic capped crimp on. The tanks are plastic capped and they're crimped onto here. I replaced it with a metal capped brazed version, and this has been awesome. Just to give you an idea, the crimped plastic brand new version lasted just under 4 years. This one has gone over 18. But you can see it's rusty, and we started leaking. Time to go. So this is how you replace it. Of course, you first start by draining everything out into a bucket, not down the street, folks. You just pull the plug, or sometimes there's a valve. We got to get this tank off first. There's a little, it's slotted in there, right? But there's a little button that you have to press in to get out. The plastic's pretty stiff. I had to basically use a screwdriver to. Okay, that did it. Screwdriver. Jam it behind there. Give myself some leverage. That's right. All about leverage. There we go. We need to get the hoses off next. Some people like to put fresh rubber on there when they do it. It's probably not a bad idea. I'm going to go ahead and keep these because I did have a leak a couple years ago, so these are relatively fresh. I'm just going to move this one out of the way. You might want some eye protection, even when you realize you can just pull the hose out from up top. And of course, you want to move your bucket over to catch anything that drips up. There's 4 of them holding this plastic shroud on. Feel free to move the fan out of the way. It's a little cramped in there, but not too bad. Now that you got the plastic off, there's 6 screws that hold the radiator on. There's the 3 on the passenger side. And there's a handy little through hole on the back side of the sheet metal that lets you get your sockets through there. If you're using a socket, you could probably get these out with a wrench, but man, it'll take you a while. Unless you have one of those ratcheting wrenches, that might be all right. Sometimes it's just easier to just turn the shaft of the socket instead of actually using the wrench itself. That right there is the axle differential, front differential vent tube. Make sure you put that aside and protect it. Make sure it doesn't get crimped or cut. There, we take it out. Here's a closer look at the damage. The ones that go up and down, those are tubes, right? They're flattened tubes, and these little fins are linked between them. And air blows through there and pulls heat away. Those tubes sometimes will develop little pinhole leaks, and that's what's happened here. I wanted to replace it with another. I was going to get an all aluminum radiator, and I wanted to avoid these. You can see the crimps there on the plastic cap. There's a rubber gasket in between there, and it's supposed to create a nice tight seal. As opposed to the metal capped, which, it's brazed on there. That is a nice tight seal. Nothing's going to change that. I'm sure it's much cheaper to manufacture with a plastic cap, but I also am quite convinced that they do it with the plastic cap because they know the rubber will wear out right just shortly after the warranty goes away. They get you in there for a nice expensive repair. It's a great time to clear out any leaves or debris that are hanging off the back of the AC condenser if you have one. I have a manual transmission, so I'm just setting these little adapters aside. If you have an automatic, please look into it. There's going to be a lot of fluids you're going to need to capture and replace probably, and you do not want to run your transmission dry and burn it out. So be careful with that. This here is a little tab that to allow the air conditioning plumbing to come through. Just bend it several times, the metal will fatigue and it'll pop right off. I forgot to mention this earlier. Don't pull off the bottom bolts because those slots right there will slip right onto the bolts in place, right? So you want to loosen them, but not take them all the way off. And then when you set the radiator back in, it'll just be just right on those. And they hold the radiator for you while you're screwing in these top bits. Oh, you may have to, just to adjust things up and down a little bit. Don't forget to put that clamp back on. I obviously did. It's kind of cramped down there. Sometimes it's easier to take the extender off. Get everything hand tight first. Make sure it's all kind of set in there, right where you want it to be. And then you can come in with the ratchet and just tighten things down. There's probably a torque spec for this, but don't go crazy with it. So this guy, you're putting the sheet metal bolts into fresh sheet metal. So the hole's there, but you have to you do have to pull it through. So you're gonna have to use a little bit of force. Took me a little bit longer than it should have to realize that the manufacturer here just didn't give me a hole for this bolt. So easy to take care of, but still. Make sure you use the right size. I used a step bit to get down to the right size, and again, it's there's no threads here. If you wanted to, you could I could have busted out my tap and die set and put some thread in there, but it's sheet metal. The screw goes through. And again, you want to just snug these down. Nothing crazy. Don't forget to put the water bottle back and make sure you get those little tabs in the slot and make sure you click that little nub down. Get all your hoses back on, clamp down, make sure it's all sealed, and make sure your valve is closed. This one has a valve, the other one had a plug. If you've never looked inside a radiator, that's what a nice shiny new one looks like. Those are the flat tubes that go up and down that I was mentioning. And then in between those tubes, you get those little zigzaggy ribbons that pull the heat away. But water goes through the tubes. And air flows over all of it. Make sure you fill the entire system with coolant. For the radiator, you want to go right to the top, just to where the cap's rubber seal will sit down inside. And don't forget to fill the reservoir tank on the side here. There should be a max fill line marked on it. Okay, definitely take a quick look around, make sure there's no obvious leaks when you start the car. But we're going to want to let it get the temperature, right? You want to make sure the engine heats up enough to open up the thermostat, and that way the pump will actually be running water through the whole system, and that'll really let you know if you have a leak. So there you have it. Nothing mysterious unless you have that automatic transmission. Sorry I couldn't help more with that. The rest of the repair, though, super simple. You can do the whole thing with hand tools. Okay, I did have to drill a hole, but hopefully that was just a problem with my particular unit. You can do this. Happy fixing.